Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Saturday morning Storytime. I'm Brittny Charity, and today we're going to talk about loving dialogue. Start with this song today. Build a house for men and birds to rest their heads upon the earth. Build a house for men and birds to rest their weary heads upon this earth. I hear a future where a voice has its power, when it helps, it guides, and it serves to uplift another soul. And I see a future where the eye is always honest, and it knows what is real, and it knows just what is mine. Build a house for men and birds to rest their weary heads upon this earth. Thank you. That's a little song of mine. And when I say men, I mean humans, including everybody. So today I'm going to read a little chapter from this book called Loving Each Other. And I feel like it's really appropriate for these times. In the beginning, it has this quote by someone, and it says, "We are each of us angels with only one wing, and we can only fly embracing the other." Luciano de Crescenzo. That's so pretty. I love it. So this is it's a book about loving communication and how to effectively love each other to create a coexisting peaceful planet. And I'm going to start with a little section here. And it says, "It is a known fact among those who study communication that most of the time we are talking to ourselves. Not only are we often not clear about what we want to communicate, but we lack the linguistic facility to put it into some sane semantic structure. Even when we do, the listener is often uninterested, unwilling, or unable to translate the intellectual and emotional content of what is said. Communication becomes no more than the air in vibration. The fine art of conversation, too, has all but disappeared. Cocktail parties and large dinner gatherings are conducive mostly to noisy, insignificant dialogue. Family dinners, which in the past offered us a time to share and talk, have become little more than a ritual to be accomplished, leading to the dash for the television set, the evening's entertainment, or the privacy of our separate rooms. Lois Wise, in her very special book of poems called Love Talk, puts it most dramatically, and she says, "So many television marriages, that playing out of lives against a background of the tube. Instead of two lives filling the room, there are their two lives and the 11 o'clock news, with constant commercial interruption. Instead of what you say and what I say, it is what Dick and Johnny and their guests say. You don't laugh with me, I don't laugh with you. All the wit comes pouring out of the tube, and we laugh at it together. The more we avoid talking, the more passive the relationship becomes. Television permits us to walk through life with minor speaking parts, and the more we fail to speak, the more difficult speaking becomes. I'm just going to stop here for a second because I want to point out that this book was written in the 80s, but still very relevant today because instead of the television, we're just talking about phones and YouTube and TikTok and stuff. But yeah, to emphasize that last line, that the more we fail to speak, the more difficult speaking becomes. In this next part, he says, how do I say I love you? To a more or less degree, all of us have language. Even though there are many theories, no one is certain about how it is learned. We do know that no infants are ever taught formally to talk, but unless they are severely neurologically damaged or mentally retarded, they will acquire language around the age of 2. All the world's children develop language in the same way at the same age. They will babble, go through an initial stage called echolalia, will proceed to words, then sentences. This, even though it is one of the most complex of human skills. All they seem to need is a language-filled environment where they can hear the sounds of the language. I will never forget an American lady whom I met while teaching in Taiwan, who stood back in awe and said, "Imagine, 2-year-old children in the streets are speaking Chinese. What did she expect? They'd be speaking Greek?" We all know that infants are amazingly attuned to the sounds of language and will learn what they hear. Of all the words they encounter in their first few years, isn't it amazing that an infant can differentiate milk, me, and mama? The words they will hear will be the words they will learn seemingly without reason. And these will also be the tools with which they will organize their environment and interact with it. These words will be the essential human connection. If they hear yes and love and good and other positive symbols, then these will be the tools with which they will relate. Our children say no long before they learn yes, and often hate before love. Where did the child in preschool who shouts, "I'm having a nervous breakdown," learn this? Certainly not instinctively. So we either hear the language of love in our environment, or we do not. Either we learn the verbal symbols necessary to relate with each other, or we do not. How do you say, "I love you" back? After we have acquired language to some degree, how do we keep it growing? How do we use it for informative giving, for nurturing dialogue? Probably the most common use made of language is for the purpose of imparting information, to inform someone of something, to explain something. The teacher instructs the class clearly. Always print your name in the upper right-hand corner of your assignments. Ask teachers how many times papers come back with names on the left-hand side, the middle of the page, or not written on the page at all. How often have you asked for black coffee and had the waiter immediately ask, "With cream and sugar?" Having language obviously has nothing to do with communication. Communication requires dialogue. Most of us constantly find ourselves engaging in monologues. The great philosopher Martin Buber was very much concerned with human monologue/dialogue. He writes of technical dialogue, the type of communication in which we give information requiring no feeling, and it is received and acted upon. Then he moves on to monologue disguised as dialogue, in which one individual speaks to the total indifference of the other. He illustrates this with what he calls lovers' talk, in which both parties alike often enjoy their own glorious souls and precious experience. A most amusing example of this is the dialogue between Candide and Cunegonde, the lovers of Voltaire's philosophical work, Candide. Leonard Bernstein set this wistful conversation to music in his great comic opera based on the Voltaire classic. Performed operatically as a duet, the pair of lovers together, yet individually, look to the future and voice their fondest hopes and visions. Candide envisions a little farm for the pair one day replete with chickens, cows, and vegetables. Cunegonde longs for the luxury of a yacht, the excitement of parties, a luxurious life, and the glamour of jewels. Each continues on until finally the area ends with Cunegonde dreaming aloud of traveling the world and enjoying the high life. Candide continues his reveling, dreaming contentedly of a more rustic life. Returning from their individual dreams, the lovers look at each other. She exclaiming her love of married life, he in perfect harmony, happy in the knowledge of the rarity of agreement between lovers. You can imagine how long that relationship lasts. Buber continues by defining true dialogue. He sees it as one in which the speaker has the other person's individuality and special needs in mind. He states that in this type of communication, one sees in the passing parade not a crowd or a mass, but a collection of individuals, each of whom, without exception, can be seen as a person. Buber wants the major goal of all true dialogue to be the welfare of loved ones and the enhancement of their fulfillment and continued sustenance and unending respect for their potential. It is another way of saying that I want what I say to stimulate you, to bring you peace, to help you grow to your ultimate potential. I want what I say to bring us totally together. You have dignity, and therefore my interaction with you must offer all that you deserve, the total me at the moment. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have such communication with those we love? How splendid, rewarding, and nourishing it would be. Loving Each Other by Leo Buscaglia. I really hope you listened and heard that. And thanks for being here with me. I love you guys. And let's try to communicate better in dialogue, the two-way street. Thank you.